Okay, in this video we're going to be checking out the BetaFPV Beta75X. This is their 2S brushless whoop. It comes with 11,000 kV motors, some monster motors for this little tiny thing, 75 millimeters motor to motor. Obviously you got the nylon plastic frame here. F4 flight controller. It has a separate ESC board. I'll show you that here. I'll take the canopy off and show you some of the insides here in a second. It's got the ZO2 camera plus video transmitter, power switchable from 0 up to 200 milliwatts, and it is smart audio enabled, so you don't have to deal with any buttons or anything like that. You can see there's no way to get to a button. You can switch all your stuff via your transmitter, which is great. These are actually custom props. You get an extra set of these included in the kit. They're bored out for the I think it's a 1.5 millimeter motor stem. So if you want to use a different prop, you'll probably have to do some drilling out. But these props are made for this motor. I believe it's a 43 millimeter prop, so it's a little bit bigger than you would see like on, say, like the Snapper 7. I think that's a 40 millimeter prop here. You can see just comparison. This is the 1S brushless whoop, much slower. This thing's wickedly fast. This one comes with an XM Plus receiver with an XD30 connector here on the bottom. The motors are on plugs, so you can just swap them out if you burn out a motor, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think you'll probably burn out an ESC before you burn out a motor. The ESC board, you can see there where the plugs are, is separate from the flight controller board. And yeah, it's kind of hard to see. I'll take the canopy off, maybe show you a little bit of that. But they are on separate boards, and it's all tucked in there between the canopy and this frame. It's like in this little layer here. The ECs are 6 amp bursting to 10 amps. They are Bill S, so D-Shot 600 enabled. And the F4 flight controller has an MPU 6000, so it's a AK gyro, and it does come as programmed as AK out of the box. In fact, it comes with a complete PID tune. They've already done a lot of prototype testing earlier and factory tuned this, and so I flew it exactly the way it came. It does come with one battery here. It's a Nanotech branded battery with an XD30. These batteries don't come with an XD30, so you have to actually, if you want to get more of these, they're gonna come like, well, actually I converted mine. They're gonna come from Hobby King with a JST connector, and you have to cut those off and put on your XD30 if you like to go with the XD30 variant. If you get the one with the XD30 variant, you're going to get this battery. If you get the other variant, it's available with the PH2 connector. It'll come with two 1S batteries, and then you have to plug them in each individually to turn it into a 1S into a 2S. I highly recommend getting the XD30 because this thing does draw a lot of amps, and you're going to need the XD30 connector on these batteries to get the power out of this. I heard that the ones with the PH2 connector, you get voltage, a lot of voltage sag, especially when you do high throttle punch outs, so something you want to be aware of. One thing I did modify here is I moved the XM Plus here. I kind of flipped it around. The antennas were coming out the back like this and just kind of hanging out here, and I moved it this way so it's forward so that it wouldn't be blocking the USB connector, so I can access the USB connector like that. And then I just ran the antennas up the front here, and I just taped it to the ducts here like that. That seems to be fine. I haven't had too many problems with that, so if that's one way you want to take care of your antennas, keep them out of the props, you can do it like that. So, and I like the fact that they use the XM Plus instead of the XM, so you have diversity, and an XM Plus is a much better receiver. Obviously you can get other receivers. There's Spectrum, Futaba, and FlySky available as well if you want to go with those other receiver options. Okay, so just give you guys a weight measurement here, and it comes in at 40 grams, not too bad, and you throw on the battery, and we're coming in at 57 grams. Obviously it's a 2S LiPo, and just for comparison, this is a Snapper 7, and it's coming in at 29.5, so almost 30 versus about 40, so about 10 grams more, and you get 1103 motors, and it runs on 2S, so you can imagine how much more power this thing has, and believe me, it is super fast. Okay, so now I got all the little specs out of the way. I want to talk about the durability and performance of this, and I did crash this a lot, and actually this is the second canopy. It comes with two canopies. I destroyed the first one here. This is what's left of it on a fairly hard crash into the park bench that I usually fly at. So yeah, this canopy isn't that durable. It's kind of rigid. You hit something hard, it will break. So which is why they included a second one, which I think is a good thing. The other thing that broke, and let me go ahead and take this off and I'll show you, the camera mount that's inside here actually broke as well. Okay, so this is the canopy off, and I actually retained this little piece here that broke off here, so just it's canopy's level. But yeah, the only thing that's holding this little camera mount here is this one screw piece here. This piece over here on this side broke, and then the one in the front also broke. So the camera is just basically being held by the little hole in the canopy, as basically it's holding it together. Yeah, I'm not sure if this is the final version. I heard that they're going to possibly make this mount in a different material. It's fairly rigid, so that's why I think it's kind of brittle, so that's why it broke in a crash. They ought to print this in like TPU or something a little bit more semi-flexible. I also heard that the STL file for this will be made available at some point, although I didn't currently see it on their website, so I'm hoping that they'll publish that soon so I can print a new one out. I'll probably just print it on TPU. They'll also provide a little vibration dampening. Now this camera is a new version. It's called the Z02. I think the old one was a Z01, where the camera was soldered directly onto the video transmitter. So this is a new setup, and you can see there that the camera is now on wires, and so that basically, so if the camera gets damaged, it won't damage the video transmitter. And the video transmitter is actually connected to the flight stack via these pins. Anyway, yeah, so right there, the video transmitter is actually connected to the flight stack via these pins here, so it should be fairly isolated in terms of crashes. Like I did in that crash, damage the camera a little bit right here. You can see it's kind of scratched up on the top. So yeah, I think that once they switch this out, it'll be a lot better. Although that doesn't make the canopy any stronger. Hopefully they'll sell these for pretty cheap. You can get a bunch of these, because those, if they keep the same design for this canopy, they're going to break in hard crashes, so to keep that in mind. So there is a button here on the video transmitter, but of course you don't have to use that because it does have smart audio. In fact, the first time I set it up, I just went into smart audio right away and went ahead and changed my video transmitter channels, bands, and power via my transmitter. So you don't need to use this, but it's available if you want to. Of course, you have to take the canopy off, so I'm not sure why you would want to do that. And as I mentioned before, you got the flight controller stack here, and then the ESC board is right below that. So there's a very tiny gap there between the two, and then also these ESC board is held on by little header pins on the front, or in the back and the front there. So that's basically you got your flight control board, and then you got your 4-in-1 ESC board on the bottom there. It all kind of fits in this nice little package. Okay, so that's enough of me covering all the little specs here. I'm going to go ahead and show you some flight footage, and I'll give you some voiceover and talk about some flights that I had at the park. Okay, so here's just a little bonus line of sight footage for you. I almost never fly line of sight anymore. I figured I'd show you how this thing flies from my hat cam. Got a lot of power. It's really zippy. Wow, really fast. Jesus. Okay, so here's one of the flights at the park. It's kind of an overcast day. The sun's starting to come out, but yeah, the light handling on this camera is not that good. I've seen a lot better on a lot of whip style cameras, so I don't have too much experience with BetaFPV cameras, but this doesn't seem to be all that great, especially for these kind of overcast conditions. It does look a lot better when it's nice and bright outside, so something you might want to keep in mind. Maybe they'll come out with a different version of the camera later. I didn't particularly like the light handling of this camera. But you can see here I am trying all kinds of maneuvers, and it's pretty acrobatic. I mean, you're gonna hear some other reviewers say this thing flies like a 5-inch or whatever. It doesn't fly like a 5-inch. It's got a lot more power than a 1S brushless whoop for sure, like way more. It's way faster, but it doesn't compare even to a 3-inch micro brushless, so just keep that in mind. But if you're just looking at the whoop class, this is by far the fastest and most acrobatic of the brushless whoops that are out there that I've flown. But it's you know, when you try to do like power loops, that kind of stuff, it just doesn't have as much power as even just a 3-inch micro. So if someone's out there saying this is better than a 5-inch, they're lying. It's not like that. It's just that it's a very, very fast brushless whoop, and of course it's 2S and 1103 motor and all that. You can see I'm just zipping all around the park here, and I can fly low. It's got a really good tune. It's got no weird twitches or anything like that, and so I'm very happy with the tune. I'm very happy with the power. It's the most, or it's better than I expected actually in terms of a brushless whoop. But in terms of the flight characteristics, it has that kind of whoop characteristic where you got that, you know, with the ducks on the outside, you have that sort of, you feel it when you're flying around, especially doing it like when you're doing certain kind of maneuvers. It has a little bit of an imbalance, so that is something to be noted. You know, if you're looking for that 3-inch or 5-inch type of flight experience, this is not it. But if you're looking for something super fast in a brushless whoop class, this is probably the best I've seen out there. So another thing you want to keep in mind here is that the battery life is pretty short. If you fly like I just flew it here, you're going to get about 2.5 minutes, and you get a low battery warning at the land. So that was pretty consistent from all the flights I had.